Okay, so hello everyone, welcome, thanks for being here. This is our electronic voting application presentation. As you know, we've been tasked this semester to develop a Java application where we would apply most of the object-oriented programming concepts we've learned so far. And for my project, I chose to build a electronic voting application which tries to improve the paper voting system that we have specifically in Ireland, for example, at the moment. But that would make especially the account system of the votes a bit more automated while keeping security. But for this instance, security is not being a huge concern. We will be focusing on functionalities right now, especially because one of the constraints that we have for this project was to not use any database. So I will not be running MySQL in here. I will not be running any other type of database. I'll be focusing exclusively on capturing data from a file and then exporting data to a file. And I will be showing that happening on live actions to you. The reason being is I will not be using any data file. I'll be using only TXT files, which allow easy visualization of the data being stored and being read from there. Okay, so if we can start right now, the first thing I want to do is to quickly demonstrate the application running a full concept in a real user scenario, so how a user would interact with it. And after I finish the session, then I'm going to go back into the code and demonstrate how the code was built to achieve that result. Okay, so if I can run the application right now, so this will be the first screen that the user would be interacting with. This is just a welcome screen, giving some details about the election that the voter is voting for in the first place. So in this case, I've simulated an Irish presidency election for this year, 2018. Just a reminder that this application was built for a college assignment only and should never be used outside this purpose. So if I can go ahead and click start here, that will initiate my session, my voting session, and it's going to take me to a screen where I'll need to confirm my identity. So in order to confirm my identity, the application is going to ask me for two of my details. It's going to ask for my PPS number, which is basically my social security number, and my year of birth. And then it's going to compare if the PPS number that I've input has indeed the year of birth that I input in here, and then it's going to check and retrieve my details from the database, which is the file again. If for some reason the field is empty, the PPS number is empty, or the year of birth is empty, or both of them are filled but they don't match, the application is going to retrieve me an error. So if I can go ahead and just hit continue here with both fields blank, you're going to see one error showing up. So it's going to say you need to enter your PPS number and year of birth before you can proceed. Okay. So if I can go ahead and here, I'm going to type a random number in here, which will be incorrect. But it's just to show that the database, that the application will actually look into the database, and if it can't find what I'm typing in here, it's going to retrieve me another error. Okay, so I'm going to put just a random number in here, and then a random number in here as well. Hit continue, and it's going to say voter was not found. Please check your PPS number and year of birth. Right. So this time I'm going to actually go ahead and type the correct details. So the PPS number pattern that I've created is constituted of 3 digits. In this case, I am the holder of PPS number 001, and my year of birth is 1994. So if I go ahead and click and continue in here, that's going to pull in my details, right? And then it's going to ask to confirm if that's indeed me. Okay. So, okay, I can see that and I can confirm that that's me indeed. So if I hit yes here, what happened right now is the program went ahead and changed the array cache that's loaded into the memory of the application. It went ahead and changed my voted field to true in here. Okay, so first I'm going to explain what the details are in here. So as you can see, that's my name, that's your date of birth, that's my gender, that's my PPS number, and then there's the voted field in here. This is quite important. So in this instance, you can see that voter is saying as false. That means that I haven't voted in this election yet. So it means that I still have one vote to make and I can go ahead and proceed to the next step. If for some reason I had true in here, it means that I had already voted in this election, therefore I cannot vote again. So it would block me from continuing to the next screen. So what it did when I clicked yes, I confirmed that that's me. It went ahead on the array that is stored in the memory of the application, changed these to true, but didn't write back to the database just yet. It's only going to do that when I confirm in this button here. And this is the admin ID. Okay, so the way that we built the admin system for the application is basically some PPS number holders. They will be admins for the system, some will not. For this instance, I have only 2 administrators in here, and I happen to be one of them. The difference is if the person that is typing the PPS number in here is not an admin, they will not see the admin ID field in here, and they will also not have the admin options, okay? So what I'm gonna do now as an admin, before I confirm and proceed to actually do my vote, I'm gonna go ahead and insert a new voter. So I'm gonna register a new person in here, okay? So if I go ahead and register just in the form a new person, I'm gonna register John Weedy. John Weedy is gonna be my new voter. His gender, he's a male gent, and he was born on the 12th of May of 1968. He's going to be the holder of PPS number 020 because I have another 19 users already entered in the application. Then in the year of birth, I'm going to just confirm what I've already typed up there in the birthday, so 1968. John is not going to be an admin, so that means I'm going to leave the admin field here as blank. Okay. So if I hit here, add folder, you can see that everything's appeared in here. But if I go to review new voters, I'm going to see that John is registered in here. And if I hit review voters that are stored in the database, I can see everyone that is already registered in the database. Okay, so these are the instances I went ahead and registered beforehand. So whenever I hit save here, it's going ahead and it's going to create a new entry in the file. So if I can go ahead and show you the file in here. So these are all the voters that I have currently registered in my database, which is just a txt file as explained before. You can see that John is not in here yet. But when I go ahead and I click save in here, so I'm gonna hit save, and then John Weedy appears in the database. So what had happened is it took the array that it was stored in the memory, went ahead and replaced the array that it was stored in this file in here. So now I have an array with John Weedy included on it. Okay. So that's it for adding a voter. And I can reload the database. So that means the database that I have running in memory now is the old one, the one that does not contain John Weedy yet. But if I go ahead and hit reload here, now John Weedy is stored in the database and I can find him if I wanted to. Okay. The last option I would have as an admin is to view the election results, the current results. So even before it ends, I can see it how it is. So if I go ahead and hit view results here, You can see these are the candidates. I'm going to present them just in the next screen, but you can see that they have 0 votes just yet. Okay. As a regular voter, I would not have those options. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually go back to the session and start a new session now as a regular voter, not an admin, just to show you that a regular voter should not have those options. So if I hit back here, so this brings me back to the welcome screen. If I go ahead and hit start, I'm going to now search for a regular voter, which happens to be my wife. So my wife is called Michelle, and she's the holder of BPS number 003 in here. Her year of birth is 1988. So if I hit continue, it's going to find Michelle now. So it's giving Michelle details in here. It's just asking to confirm if that's indeed her. I'm going to hit yes here. So this time I can see Michelle's details, but if you note, she doesn't have an ID in here, an admin ID, and she doesn't have those buttons to check the results and search new voter and etc. Only the admins will have that. Okay. But Michelle has the right to vote regardless of her being an admin or not. So as she is still false in here, she hasn't voted this election, so I'm going to ahead and vote as Michelle. Okay. So if I hit confirm, it brings me to choose the candidate screen now. So as you can see, we have Bolsonaro in here, we have Trump, we have Axl Rose, and we have Slash. So these are the names of the candidates. These are the parties that they belong to. And these are the candidate numbers, okay? So if I want to vote for Bolsonaro, I'm gonna just choose 01 here, Trump 02, Axl Rose 03, and Slash 04. So I'm gonna ahead and vote for Bolsonaro in here, okay? And the way I do that, I can either type or I can select in the screen. So that is more intended for accessibility for different users, okay? So as I want to vote for Bolsonaro here, I'm gonna go ahead and type and hit 0 and 1, okay. And I'm gonna click submit. It's gonna ask for if that's indeed my candidate. I'm gonna say it is my candidate, it is the one I want to vote for. And then it's gonna say that the vote was registered successfully. So now I've given Bolsonaro a new vote in the cache array, but it hasn't been written to the database yet. So if I go ahead and demonstrate the candidates database this time, so here I have the 4 candidates, okay? So I have the name, gender, year of birth. I have also if they have voted yet or not, the number of the candidate, and then the number of votes. So you can see they're all 0 here yet. So if I go ahead and confirm my vote here now, it's going to say I finished my session. But if I go ahead and check the database, now Bolsonaro has 1 vote. Okay. So at this moment, I would have 2 options. I would have the option of starting a new voting session or to finish the application. I'm going to start a new session now. And because I want to demonstrate 2 things to you guys. So if I can start my voting session again, I'm gonna go ahead and search for Michelle's details again, as simulating as if she wanted to vote again. So I'm gonna type 003, 1988, and I hit continue. And then it's going to ask me to confirm if that's indeed who I'm looking for. I'm going to say yes. But now this time, if you notice, the saying is voted. So, and it's saying true. So it means Michelle has already voted in this election. We saw that we voted for her. So if I try to proceed and choose the candidate again, it won't let me. It says you already voted this election. You can't proceed. Okay. So Michelle is not going to be allowed to vote in this election anymore. But if I go back now and I start a new session, and now I look for me this time, in this instance, I am the admin for the system, and I want to check the results for that to see if Michelle's vote has indeed counted towards the results. Okay, so if I search for me again, in here, That's gonna confirm my identity, give me my details again. But now, if I go to view results, it should show that there was a vote for Bolsonaro in this election already. So if I go and see results, I can see that now Bolsonaro has 1 vote and all the other candidates have 0 votes. Okay, so that means votes are being counted towards the right candidate. There's no corruption in the way that votes are being registered now, which can be achieved if you want, and I'm going to demonstrate how you would do in this instance. Okay, so that's pretty much the application, guys. That is pretty straightforward. It was designed to be accessible to the majority of the population, just as a voting application should be. Okay, so now if I may get into more of the technicalities of how the application was actually built, I'm going to demonstrate the objects in here first. So the first object I have here is an abstract object, okay, which is called person. So person is the super class of this application, okay. It has the attributes of name, gender, and birthday, but as an abstract class, no instances are allowed to be created from person, okay. What is going to happen is I'm going to have a subclass from person that's called voter. And voter now is inheriting from person, but is adding another attributes to it. So it's adding the PPS number and the year of birth to it, okay? So voter is the class that I'm going to be using to create other instances. So every time I create a new voter that is not an admin, it's creating a new instance of voter. But then voter is also a superclass to candidate and admin voter. So if I go ahead and see the candidates in here, so the candidates is inheriting from voter this time, but is also adding the party, the candidate number, and the total votes parameters to that class. Okay, but then that the candidate object has also a sibling, which is the admin voter, which is inheriting from voter as well. So it's not inheriting from candidate. So it's not extending candidate in here. It's extending only voter. So on top of the PPS number and the year of birth, it is going to add the parameter admin ID this time. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, so we chose to do this implementation of leaving the person class abstract because the purpose of the application is not to create new citizens, it's to create new voters. So in order to protect the characteristics of this class and to make sure that instances of only voters are being created, so for instance, you could have, if this class wasn't abstract, you could have an instance of a voter that would not have a PPS number, for example. Therefore, they wouldn't be allowed to vote in the application, and that would create a scenario that it's not what we were trying to achieve in the application in the first place. So that's why this is still an abstract class. Is that okay? Cool. So as I was explaining, the admin voter is extending the voter class and just adding the admin ID in here. So technically, when I said that I was an admin voter, I am an instance of the object admin voter, and I'm not an instance of voter. While Michelle, for example, she is an instance of voter, and she's not an instance of admin voter, if that makes sense. Okay. Cool. So going to the GUI objects now, you can see that this is the intro object, and all it's doing from a event handling perspective is whenever I hit the start button here, that is just the code to make the sound of the button, and then it's creating a new instance of voter GUI, which is the next GUI in the sequence where user typed their details, and it's making that visible, and then it's disposing of this GUI. Okay, so the voter GUI this time, the first thing it's going to do it is going in the constructor here. It is loading the database. Okay, so first thing, whenever the screen comes up, it is going to read from the votersdb.txt file and load the memories into different objects. And then every time a new object is created, it is adding to an array list called voter list. Okay. And the instance that it's adding is the voter new, which is the one that it was just created from a new line of the txt file. Then we have different buttons here. So this is the confirm button that's just writing back to the file once the voter has confirmed their identity. But then we have the continue button here, which is actually being used to search through the array that is now loaded into the cache memory and looking for the similarities in here. So you can see the if statement here is saying if the PPS number is empty and year of birth is empty as well, it's going to display the message you need to enter your PPS number and year of birth. Else, if there's something in there, then it's going to search for if what the user typed is indeed what is stored in an object, in an instance of object, which in this case is X. And if it matches, then it's going to run these instances of the code. And then if it doesn't, it is going to run this instance here where it says that we could not retrieve your details from the database because we simply could not find you. Okay, so once the programmer can find the voter, then once you hit confirm, which is this method here, it is change your status from voted false to voted true and writing back to the database. So that's something actually I haven't showed you guys. So you can see that we voted for Michelle at this instance, right? So these are all Michelle details. And then at the end here, you can see that it says true, where everyone else is still saying false. So it means that Michelle has already voted this time, but everyone else hasn't. Okay. So that's basically what the confirm button is doing. And then this is the GUI object for adding a new voter. And then the load method is exactly the same as the voter GUI. So it loads all the voters database into a memory array, manipulates the data, and then at the end of the session, it writes back to the file again. Okay. And then the candidate queue in here, this is the one that I want to show you how the process can get corrupted if you wanted to. So this is where you're going to be voting for the candidate. So here, for example, I have all the different buttons. So I have the 0 button, 1 button, number 2 button, number 3, number 4, and etc. and so on and so forth. And then the method that is using to identify for which candidate you want to use is actually this one here. So it's the submit button. If I run just the instance of the object, you can see that the submit button is this one here. So what you would usually do is type in the candidate number, hit submit, and this is what the method is for. So what it's going to do is just ignore this part of the text. Is just for the sound. So what it's going to do is, of course, if the field is empty, it's going to ask for a candidate number. If it is not empty, it's going to identify if what the user typed is 0, 1. It is going to the array instance of the candidate list array instance number 0, and it's going to add a new vote for candidate 0. If the user types 02, it's going to do the same, but now for instance number 1, 03 for instance number 2, and 04 for instance number 3 now. But while I could capture that the voter is voting that number 01, I can display that the voter is voting for Bolsonaro in this instance, but the vote can get accounted for candidate number 2. So I'm actually going to go ahead and sabotage this code on purpose, and says that whenever someone types 01, it is going to show a message that the person is voting for candidate 01, which in this case is Bolsonaro, but the vote is going to get counted towards candidate number 1 this time, okay, who is Trump. So I want to achieve a result where I'm voting for candidate number 01, but the candidate number 2 is actually the one getting the vote, okay? So I'm not going to launch the whole application, or actually, I think I should launch the whole application. Just demonstrate the whole process in voting now. So this is just the program running again. This is a welcome screen. We've all seen that. I'm going to go ahead and search for me again, because I am the one that's going to be voting this time. So if I hit continue, that's me. It still says false here because I've never confirmed my vote in here. Okay, so the database was never changed to true in my case. So I can see the results here now. It is still saying that Bolsonaro has 1 vote and everyone else has 0. So at the end of this session, what I want to achieve is Trump to have 1 vote, Bolsonaro to have 1 vote, Axel Rose and Slash will still have 0, but I was actually trying to vote for Bolsonaro. So Bolsonaro should have 2 in here, but in reality, Trump will get 1 vote. So if I can confirm now, so it's going to allow me to vote, and I'm going to vote for Bolsonaro. So I'm going to hit submit here. It's going to say that I'm voting for Bolsonaro. Okay. So I'm going to hit yes. It's going to say that my vote was confirmed. I'm confirming my vote now. And then I'm going to finish my session. But if I go ahead on the candidates database, you can see that now instead of Bolsonaro having 2 votes, Trump has 1 vote now, even though the application showed me that I was voting for the other candidate. So I'm going to run the application again and show that in real time. So I'm going to go ahead. So this is my PPS number. Continue. So now, as I just voted, my voted status changed to true. I'm not going to be allowed to vote again, as you can see. But what I actually want to do is to view the results. So as you can see now, even though I voted for Bolsonaro, and Bolsonaro should have 2 votes here now, Trump has 1 vote. So this is how easily a voting application can get corrupted if not using the correct security protocols. And in the majority of the case, each country will have their own security protocols. But that's something that could be easily avoided if we are using blockchain as one of the security measures in the application, which unfortunately is not the case for most countries that use electronic voting applications. Okay, so guys, that's pretty much it for the presentation. We're just hitting 30 minutes now. So I just wanted to go ahead and open a quick Q&A session. Yep. Okay. Okay, so in regards to inheritance and polymorphism in the application, inheritance, so inheritance is being applied throughout these 3 classes in here, and polymorphism is being applied in this class as well. So if I go ahead and go to person in here, you're going to see the original method that it created is called print voter details. This is the original method, and all it's doing is returning the name, the gender, and the birthday of the instance created from this class, okay? So what the other objects are going to do, the other classes actually are going to do, is the class voter, it is going to use exact the same method, which is then going to super the print voter details, but it's going to add the BPS number, the year of birth, and the voter now, and is going to override the method that was previously created in the person class. The same is going to happen for the candidate. So the candidate is going to override the same method, but now add its own attributes, and admin voter is going to override the method as well, but now using this attribute. And then you can see that being applied whenever I'm saving that back to any of the files. So that is actually loading, so that's the save. You can see in here that whenever I'm saving it, I'm using the method print voter details. Right? Okay, cool. Next one. All right, right. The design idea, yeah, I'm actually gonna open the cleanest one here, which will be the intro GUI. So the design idea was actually mostly my wife's contribution to the project, to be honest. So the original idea was to have a header logo in here and a footer logo in here, and just have a blank page overall. And I had this icon here added in both header and footer, but then she came to me and said, why are you having the two images added twice in the layout, while you could have the flag for the country, whichever country you choose to do it then. And then as I was doing a Irish election, I went ahead and chose the county's flag to be displayed in here. And then this is just a generic icon for Ireland, which I found awesome. And that was basically it. So it was, and the implementation was also very simple. I just added a icon to J labels and formatted then in the J frame to make sure it was looking nice. So the implementation is kind of butchery, to be honest, but that's how it was done. All right, guys. So thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it. And by the way, I'm recording this session, so I'm gonna be posting that to YouTube and circulate the link to it later on at some later stage this week. So if you guys have any questions about it, or if you guys have any suggestions before the submission date, which is actually on Friday the 7th, I would really appreciate it. Okay. Thank you very much.